Right, hello people. Welcome to my official prediction for Tyson Fury versus Arslanbek Makhmudov now. This is an interesting fight to me for a few reasons now. If this was both men at their absolute best, wouldn't be saying that. I'd say it's quite a clear-cut victory for Tyson Fury. But with the way this fight's come about, there's quite a few intangibles here. Now, getting into those intangibles, it's mainly how Tyson Fury's going to look. He's coming off some losses to Alexander Usyk, of course, no shame there. Put in a good effort both times. I thought it could have been a better effort on both occasions, but he put in a good effort nonetheless. It's been about 18 months since that second Alexander Usyk fight. Whereas Arslanbek Makhmudov is coming off some weird form of his own, to be fair. He obviously had that loss to Caballero, he had a win, then he had a loss to Guido Villanello, then a win, and then I believe another win over Dave Allen, which is his most recent victory to date. The loss to Caballero, there's no shame there. Caballero is a world-class heavyweight, interim WBC world champion, really should be fighting for a world title any day now. Guido Villanello is a bit questionable because if you're going to the top level of the sport, like Makhmudov was hyped to do a few years ago, you remember, he was a big favourite over Ajit Caballero, which is in retrospect crazy, looking at the way their careers have panned out since. But if you're going to the heights, or even if you're going to hit the top 10, top 15 level, you should be getting past Guido Villanello comfortably. And he didn't do that. He got beat up. Villanello's a good heavyweight, good athletic, quick heavyweight. But you should be getting past him if you're going to be, this destroyer that he was made out to be. The Dave Allen win was pretty good. He won it well. But I think that was just ended up being, he just kind of took advantage of the situation that, Dave Allen's got a few issues. He just didn't commit to any kind of long, sustained attack and didn't really let his hands go. But getting back to Tyson Fury, obviously he's coming off those two losses to Alexander Usyk. He's coming off a big layoff of about 18 months, something like that. Now, Tyson Fury notoriously has been a little bit poor after layoffs and poor in whenever he steps down in competition. Now, a few examples I have here are obviously the layoff after his big, long, nearly 3-year break where he came back and fought Sefer Seferi and Francesco Pianao, who were two guys Fury should be getting through very comfortably. He got through Sefer Seferi pretty well. The Pianeta fight was quite poor from Fury in all honesty, but even the Seferi fight was a guy who I believe weighed about 60 pounds less of Tyson Fury, and he didn't perform particularly great in either fight. But that layoff was a bit of a different situation, of course. His mental health troubles, the issues with drugs and all that. But then he went on to draw with Deontay Wilder, which is good. He had a few fights in between. He takes a step down in competition to Otto Wallin not long after the Wilder fight. He did have the Tom Schwartz fight in between, but Tom Schwartz is absolute garbage, whereas Otto Wallin is actually pretty decent. So he has a Tom Schwartz fight. He's still fighting a level down from Wilder, a good fighter in Otto Wallin, and goes life or death with him. After that, fights Deontay Wilder in the rematch, absolutely batters him. Then he has the third fight of Deontay Wilder, which was coming off a long layoff and he, didn't take the fight too seriously, looked a bit fleshy, I'd say, and kind of struggled in that third Deontay Wilder fight. You got the Dillian White fight, you got the Chisora fight, then you got probably the most infamous example of this, the Francis Ngannou fight, where he completely underestimated Ngannou and was made to look like a bit of a fool in front of a UFC fighter, and honestly got very lucky to win. You can even name examples from really far back, like the John McDermott fight, for example, the Nevin Pikage fight. These are fights against lower level opposition where he's had a bit of trouble. Steve Cunningham, who to be fair was a world class fighter, a weight class below admittedly, but was a world class fighter at one point. So yeah, Fury's had a bit of a way in his career of underperforming when it's a step down in competition, and Arslanbek Makhmudov is certainly a step down in competition compared to Alexander Usyk, and after a long layoff. And he's got a combination of the two here. Now, stylistically, Makhmudov is about as tailor-made for Tyson Fury as you can get. He's a big, stiff, unsophisticated heavyweight, very slow, poor head movement. With Tyson Fury being 6'9", 85-inch reach. If this was him at his absolute peak, he'd get in there, he'd be light on his feet, he'd be feinting. Where Makhmudov's feet are so slow, he wouldn't be able to close the distance. He'd be completely confused by the feints of Tyson Fury. Makhmudov's balance is very poor, so Fury would keep him off balance with his movement. Basically, Makhmudov wouldn't be able to do anything to him. But in the later years of Fury's career, we've seen the movement start to slow down. We've seen the energy levels decrease, as they do for all fighters. He's still very well conditioned and, still very athletic for his size, at least. We've seen him kind of sit down on his punches more and, use the clinch game a bit more, which, if I had to advise Tyson Fury how to fight in this fight, I wouldn't advise using the clinch. Makhmudov is a big, strong heavyweight. He's wrestled with bears. I'm sure the fucking geezer can handle himself in a clinch. I believe that's what gave him a lot of trouble in the Francis Ngannou fight. He wasn't used to a fighter with that amount of strength who could, hold up to, Tyson Fury's bullying tactics. So I wouldn't recommend that for Tyson Fury to take the approach where he sits down on his punches and kind of stands in front of Arslanbek Makhmudov more and tries to rough him up and wear him down in the clinch, because, for one, if you're going to stand in front of him, you give him a chance to hit you, and Makhmudov can bang. The delivery system is flawed, but if you give him the opportunity, he can bang. And you just don't want to give him the opportunity to muscle you around in the clinch either, because you wear yourself down. So if I had to advise Tyson Fury how to fight, it would be, the old school way he used to fight, which would be light on his feet, keep it on the outside, constantly feinting, keeping Makhmudov off balance. He's got very poor balance. You're making him lunge in, you counter him. Just keep it long, keep yourself active, even in moments where you're not outputting offense. Just keep it up with the constant feints. Just constant movement, basically, because I believe that's Makhmudov's biggest issue, is that his head's on the centre line, he's easy to hit, his defence is poor, his feet are slow, his balance is awful. So if you kind of put him in a position where you can frustrate him a bit with feints, so he doesn't really know what's coming and you're keeping it long, you might get him to commit to a right hand, which completely throws his balance off, and you can counter him and you can have your way with him. But the problem with that approach of Tyson Fury is, he's about 38 years old now. He's had a long career. He's been dropped many, 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 many times. And he's coming off a layoff. How many times can Fury, get dropped before that chin all of a sudden, or not the chin per se, but how many times can Tyson Fury get dropped and the recovery just be like that? The man's recovery has been brilliant throughout his career, right? Even took a heavy knockdown against Steve Cunningham, got up. The 12th round against Deontay Wilder, of course, is a legendary moment. The 9th round of the Alexander Usyk fight was another legendary moment, and he came back to fucking do decent in that fight after that. Of course, he arguably won the 12th round against Wilder. I know with the knockdown, I don't give it to him, but he arguably won the rest of that round. So his powers of recovery have been brilliant, but that shit doesn't last forever, especially when you're a guy like Tyson Fury who doesn't take care of himself outside of camps, balloons up and down in weight. It's the kind of thing where you just can't keep getting away with it forever. So can he implement the tactics I've just set out for him, where keeps it long, keeps it, active, feinting, timing's there with the counters, just constant movement, keeping Makhmudov off balance, countering him whenever you get him to lunge in? Can he still do that at this age? I think he's going to have enough left to at least be able to execute that game plan to, a decent extent against Arslanbek Makhmudov. But it is worth a pain. If I was a betting man, which I'm not, I'd maybe slip a bit of money on Makhmudov by knockout, because Fury's powers of recovery can't hold it forever. He's not gonna fucking keep, that same athleticism that he needs to win this fight convincingly throughout his entire career. The long layoff, it'd be worth it, but my pick is definitely with Tyson Fury. I think he's going to outbox Makhmudov. I believe there could be a few hairy moments here and there where maybe Makhmudov does rough him up in a clinch. Maybe does land a good shot here and there, especially early when Fury's trying to warm into the fight. But I think we're going to see a half decent version of Tyson Fury in there. He did look good in those Usyk fights. I don't believe the layoff. I believe layoff will affect him early, but I believe if he comes in shape, which, it's tricky to tell Fury whether or not he will come in good shape. But if he comes in good shape, I think it will take him a few rounds to warm in. I think Makhmudov will have a few moments early, not necessarily picking up the rounds, but, will have a few ambitious moments. But I think I've got Fury. I don't know if a stoppage is... See... He's still with Sugar Hill Stewart, and he has had a good record of stopping people with Sugar Hill Stewart, The second Wilder fight, the third Wilder fight, the Dillian White fight, the Chisora fight. And then the Ngannou fight is the only fight he won where he didn't stop someone with Sugar Hill. I'm going to go Fury by decision, but I could definitely see a rounds 9 onward stoppage, possibly. But I think I've got him by decision, but I don't rule out the chance of a stoppage. Makhmudov has been stopped twice before, and yeah, man. I'm sorry if this prediction is a bit of a mess, by the way. I've not had much sleep, so I'm just a bit all over the place. But that's my thoughts on the fight. I'm probably going to do an undercard preview at some point, so stay tuned for that. My pick is Tyson Fury by either late stoppage, but probably by decision. So thank you for watching. Goodbye.